Next is a love story so demented it's not only creepy, it's grotesque. Listen, when you find your one true love, why let a little thing like death get in the way? This is the case of Carl Tanzler and his corpse bride.
Well, Carl was a German scientist, quote unquote, a quote mad scientist who held a degree in microbiology and who worked at a hospital in the Keys. And he was an inventor, and he was a putterer. He was always fixing things. He had an airplane that he kept in a piece of property that he was constantly in the state of trying to restore to being able to fly. And he was also an obsessive compulsive, and he had some screws loosed on top of everything else up there. Whatever ran right, there was some stuff that ran wrong. And Carl's claim to fame is that a young woman, a beautiful woman by all accounts by the name of Elena Hoyos, young girl, came into the hospital with tuberculosis, turned out to be terminal. But Carl fell in love with her. Now, what love was to Carl Tanzler is not like love that anybody else I've ever known, or read about. Carl promised her family that he could treat her and put her back to health. And in addition to all the normal treatments that they gave her for tuberculosis, which weren't many in those days, it's a bacteriological disease, he experimented with her to try and see if he could cure her. He did not, and she died. And when she died, he had become close to the family because he was constantly over there, and there was a period of time when they took her out of the hospital and took her home to die and all that. And so Carl funded a crypt for her, which in Key West and in the Keys, as you know, those crypts are above ground because the water table is so high, you can't bury people far into the oolite rock. So this was a beautiful crypt. Spent a ton of money on it. And one of its most interesting features was the telephone that Carl installed, so he could go every night, which he did, and call her up and talk to her.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Hello?
Until I don't know what happened, but Carl figured it was safe and it was time, so he went, broke into the crypt, and took her body, brought her home, and made her his bride in every sense of the word. She had spurned his advances, as they say. All of his offers of wed marriage before she died. She thought he was probably a little creepy, which he was, right? She's a beautiful girl. She's dying, but even then doesn't mean she wants this creepy guy for a husband. And so he got what he wanted, takes her home, puts her in a bedroom, props her up in bed, and then puts wax on the parts of her body that are slowly decaying into nothing. Oh,
God, this is so gross.
And stretches her body out using wire and puts fake eyeballs in for her eyes, and apparently restored her anatomically correctly.
Oh, God.
So that she could be his bride in every sense of the word. And he went on like this for a long time until he finally got caught. And then
But it went on for years.
Oh, yeah.
For years.
Yeah. Part of the story was that he stored her body in that airplane for a while, too, before he moved her into the house. So I don't know. Was he going to fly her around? Yeah. I don't know. But anyways, there's a whole new meaning.
And he put oils and perfumes on her to cover up the scent of decomposition. And she looked odd. I mean, people thought it was a doll, right? They went in there and they thought, well, this actually can't be her. It's got to be a doll.
The whole thing is just bizarre. You can't really explain it unless you understand that a mind like Carl's was so preoccupied with the way in which he structured the world, his inventing, the way he saw things, that he lived in the bubble of his own mind. So it didn't matter if she smelled bad.
Oh, God.
It didn't matter if she was decomposing before him.
Oh,
that
so
was his bride.
Yeah. That was his reality.
That was his reality.
His normal.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so gross.
Yeah, but you know what? It makes you question the subject of normal.
Yeah.
Because it seems as though normal varies from person to person in this world. What's normal for him ain't normal for us. And the rest of us just try and spend our time litigating and legislating everybody else not to go too far off into the wrong direction. But Carl was a classic. So then they had a big funeral for her again, and they put her on display in a nursing home for several months. I think it was at least a month, and 7,000 people came to look at her.
In that grotesque form.
In that grotesque form. And then they reburied her. And guess what? After he was convicted and served his probation or paid his fine, Carl sat home every night thinking about her. So he went and he dug her up again.
Oh, my God. Oh, God.
Or broke her out.
What a creeper.
What a great story.
Creeper.
You know, I tell you what, though, it does give all new meaning to having your friends over for dinner.